Dricus du Plessis came to the Great White North and conquered, becoming the middleweight champion earlier this year, and he heads to Australia this Saturday to face Israel Adesanya in his first title defense. But before we get to that, how did my countrymen treat you in the Great White North? How did you enjoy Toronto?
Amazing. I mean, yeah, people were amazing. Canadians truly are the nicest people on earth. Uh, like like people would believe all over the world, that is indeed true. Everybody was super, super nice. It was an awesome, awesome time there. I have to say, being from South Africa, we are not used to that kind of weather. It was a big adjustment with the cold. Really enjoyed it at first because it was something new, not something we don't really know. And but then when it was time to go home, I was really looking forward to some heat. But Canada was amazing. It was great while we were there.
That was a particularly cold. I think that was the coldest week of the year that we had there. That also happened when the NBA came for All-Star Weekend a couple years back. Came to Toronto, and I was thinking nobody's ever going to sign with the Raptors with this kind of weather. But I'm glad that you at least enjoyed the weather for a little bit of time because it was something different.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And now you head to Australia, where I'm sure the weather is quite a bit nicer to face Israel Adesanya in your first title defense. Now, Israel, one of the greatest middleweights of all time. You're looking to become one of the greatest fighters of all time, if not the greatest fighter of all time. That is your goal. So, when you look at Israel as a challenge, what does he represent?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think you said it perfectly. One of the greatest middleweights ever. Um, his career has been nothing short of spectacular. Not necessarily always the fights, but always finding that way to win. When he doesn't have to fight the exciting fight. Well, when he doesn't go and fight the exciting fight, he goes and he makes sure he outpoints his opponents, and he's done that many, many times. He's had some amazing finishes. He's had some of the more technical fights where he had to outpoint his way to a victory. But that's also a mark of a champion, finding a way to win regardless of method. It's about retaining your belt and doing what you have to win. And he's done that over many, many years, and he's been consistently winning and performing. So for a lot of years, he was at the top, and still is fighting at the top. He's not the king of the division anymore, but he's still fighting at the top. So yeah, his career has been absolutely amazing, and it's a massive honor for me actually to go out there and fighting the best middleweight other than myself in the world.
When you look at that last fight against Sean Strickland, the one that he lost, he was a massive favorite in that fight. What do you think went wrong for him on that night? Do you think that it was as much Strickland being a great pressure fighter and solving the puzzle, or that Israel just wasn't himself that night?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I watched that fight at first, not having fought Strickland before, I just completely wrote off Strickland in the fight. Firstly, like most of the world did, but as the fight progressed, I honestly thought that Adesanya wasn't himself. You could see there was the way he fought. He didn't land anything. It wasn't. It wasn't. It felt completely off. And I was publicly saying that we all know that wasn't the Adesanya that we are used to, that fought in that fight. But after fighting Strickland, I I slowly started realizing that maybe that wasn't the case. After fighting Strickland and solving that puzzle, which is Sean Strickland, it's a much harder task than you would think. The way his defense is very good. He gets that jab through. He's totally patient, and not my style. That he's not. He has no problem going the distance, no problem at all. And especially when you let him fight his fight by going forward, and that's what he did with Adesanya. So after fighting Strickland myself and seeing firsthand what he brings to the table, my opinion changed a little from going, listen, Adesanya was completely off that night to, well, Strickland basically had the perfect plan and had with Strickland's tricky style, that was a counter that counted Israel's game completely. He didn't allow Izzy to set in his rhythm. He didn't give him that chance to set up. He was just pressuring him and basically smothering all the shots. And that was yeah. I mean that is has to be credited to Sean Strickland.
How important was that win for you mentally against John Strickland, going all 5 rounds? You had surgery before the Whitaker fight on your nose that helped you breathe better. Now that you got to experience 25 real minutes in the cage, in sparring it's a little bit different, but UFC minutes, championship level fight, what did that teach you about yourself that night?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was never doubt, but there was obviously something wrong previously. I mean, it was pretty evident. The way I fight is a very energy intensive style. I've always fought that way. I trained that way. But when it came to the fight night, it was always something. I got a bit more tired than I would like to, and obviously after the surgery, and that is one aspect, a very small aspect. The bigger aspect being that we made some massive changes in terms of my conditioning and not working harder but working smarter. We got specialists in on the conditioning, and we found some areas that we maybe neglected. It's not a matter of we didn't work hard enough. It was a matter of we skipped some areas, or we um, looked at some areas wrong, especially the low impact training where I'm not trying to kill myself the whole time, because that was basically what I was doing. So, I mean, the sport is ever evolving. Our team is ever evolving. I'm ever evolving, and we always try to be better. So, when I got to that fight, the first time in my life going past round 3, and I felt amazing. After round 4, I felt the best in that whole fight. I felt, geez, I mean, it felt like I was just warmed up. Round 3 and 4, I felt amazing. So that was very refreshing for me to go knowing the work we put in and the changes we've made has had this amazing impact. But 100%, I mean, I have no problem with confidence. I think that's pretty evident. But when it comes to going the distance, going 5 rounds, winning a world title, now I know I can do that too. With my record, I've 21 wins with 19 finishes. I know I can finish fights, but now I know I can go the distance and 5 rounds with that.
Dana White very recently said that when it comes to UFC going to Africa, signs are pointing towards South Africa being the first event in Africa. Now, of course, you're a champion in the UFC. The UFC's never come to South Africa before. I'm not going to talk about pressure because it's been very evident that pressure doesn't seem to be a thing that gets to you. So I'm going to change pressure into excitement. How excited are you for this fight, knowing that with a win, now you're going to get to go to South Africa and defend on home soil in the first ever card in not only South Africa, but in Africa that the UFC holds? In all likelihood, that looks like what they're going to try to do next year if possible.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you this. This is nothing new to me. The the pressure, the excitement, like you said, more the excitement of knowing that I can bring the UFC to Africa as a champion. But I mean, it's been almost call it the carrot for uh, the last 2, 3 fights that I've known. If you become champion, become champion. Before the Strickland fight, we had the exact same conversation. With the UFC want to do it, everybody wants to do it, but you know, at this stage, it's almost like seeing is believing, and I know for a fact that the UFC is going to Africa, and if it's going to Africa, it's going to go to South Africa. But excitement, pressure, I always feel the same kind of pressure when I fight. It's whether I need to defend this title, just like I had to win this title. That is that is the pressure. Me performing, representing my country, representing my flag, and ultimately becoming the greatest to ever do it. That is where the pressure comes from, and the rest, bringing the UFC to South Africa, that is that is just excitement. That's no pressure. That's the kind of things that make this even more worth it. That makes it the greatest feeling on earth. So I don't feel pressure on that. The only pressure I feel is performing, going out there and performing. And that pressure is what fuels me every single day. And that's the pressure that makes me perform when I get into that octagon.
All right, Dricus, well, we look forward to the first of perhaps many middleweight championship defenses this Saturday, UFC 305 in Australia. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it, man. Great to talk to you again.